Should I start over? I was just saying that I'm here as one of the. There's somebody here every night at 8:30 to go through the ritual of counting the Omer, and to add to that moment maybe a teaching or a sharing or a thought or a song. It's been a lovely, so far, I think, tradition. And I was saying that there's something really holy about counting, in this counting period. It kind of gives us an intentionality, lets us grab onto, hold on to the moments of our days and the events of our days and the little things and the big things that happen when we count the days. It's like we're grabbing them, and before they slip away a little bit, we're kind of cementing them in our soul. And so beyond the 50 days of counting the Omer, it feels like there's a spiritual practice or sort of a spiritual notion that goes along with the ritual of counting the Omer, and that is that maybe we figure out ways to do this in some fashion other days besides the days of the Omer. And I was saying that one of the things that some people know about me, and certainly my family does, is that as an avocation or a hobby, I'm kind of an archivist. It's something that really has always fascinated me and that's a way of keeping track, a way of counting, of making sure things count. And so many of the books you see in this room that I'm in the background, they're not like reading books, although we have many of those. These shelves have my archival photo books, but not just photo books. I guess they're scrapbooks without the frills. I'm not a frilly scrapbook person, but I do keep artifacts and different things that remind me of moments in my life and the life of my family and my community and things that are going on in the world. And so again, it's an intentionality of keeping track. And so, for example, because we're about to enter the 26th day of the Omer, and of course it's day 25 until I guess we count 26, or until the sun sets, but sort of we're the ones that make, as we intentionally count 26, that's when it becomes 26, I suppose. We know we're just over halfway through our counting period, which means that Shavuot, we're halfway between Passover and Shavuot, because we've been counting since the end of, or the second night of Passover. So we're getting there, and just like our biblical ancestors, maybe they didn't know exactly that they were getting there, but each day that went by, they were closer to Mount Sinai, and further away from Egypt and oppression and slavery. So another way we do this, I guess, in our society, or really in the world, another way we keep track and we count, is when we mark anniversaries of significant events. And those can be, joyful, wonderful events, and they can be really difficult, challenging, horrible events. But when we say that's an anniversary of an event, especially one of those round number anniversaries, it allows us to keep track, of our history, and to not let those things just sort of fade away. And I bring all that up because it is the 50th anniversary of the shootings at Kent State University, May 4th, 1970. 4 students, I'm going to bring up their pictures here. These 4 students, 19 and 20 years old. 2 of them were 19 and 2 of them were 20. You see their names there. There was Allison Krause and William Schroeder and Jeffrey Miller and Sandra Shire. We're protesting. That's the wrong screen. They were protesting against the Vietnam War, which obviously was happening on many college campuses and many areas of our country. And the National Guard was called. Soldiers, guards people who were pretty much the same age as the protesters. It's sort of one of those strange sort of facts about this event or this incident. And some of the guardsmen opened fire on the protesters and wounded many, and sadly and tragically killed 4 students who were just exercising their freedom of speech and right to assemble and air grievance. And for some reason, or I guess for many reasons, for me personally, it's an event that is part of me. The remembrance of that and the idea that is possible, that our own government could do such a thing to fellow citizens who are doing exactly what our Constitution says we're allowed to do. So one of the ways we mark these anniversaries, is through popular culture, and of course the song that's most connected to Kent State is Ohio, by Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, a song written by Neil Young in the aftermath of the Kent State shootings. And he brought together his bandmates, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and they quickly recorded and put out the song "For Dead in Ohio" as sort of an outrage, a responsive outrage to the Kent State shootings, killings. But there's another song about Kent State that I'm going to share with you. Not on my guitar, but I'm actually going to share with you on a video of it. And I'm going to tell you the story about how I learned about this song, because I don't think very many people know this song. When I was a junior in college, I went to England. I studied in London for a semester. And, just as students will, I tried to get to know the city and tried to, kind of take advantage of culture and events. And I saw in the Time Out magazine of London that there was going to be a folk singer singing at a London pub. And he just sounded interesting, the little description of him. And his name is Harvey Andrews. And I had never heard of him before. And I went to the pub with a couple of friends from my program. And there's Harvey Andrews already. He was, not a young folk singer even then. He's still alive, thank goodness, but he was probably, in his 40s, I would say, back then. This was 1985. And Harvey Andrews was wonderful, and I immediately knew that I was so glad that I had selected to go to that concert. What was interesting, he was very British, in his demeanor and his accent, and just, he was a very British person. But many of the songs he sang were very much about America, about the United States, very about popular culture in America and about the politics of America in a very heartfelt, nuanced, complex way. He had a song about Harry Chapin, the late Harry Chapin, a beautiful song, songs that Harry wrote about Harry Chapin and the impact that Harry Chapin had on Harvey Andrews. And he sang a song about Kent State. It's called Hey Sandy, and it's sort of a song that once he sang it, I immediately was drawn to it because I already, Kent State was already sort of a seminal event for me. So I went back and saw Harvey Andrews a few months later in Wolverhampton. I think I hitchhiked. Don't try that at home, kids. It was a different era, but I hitchhiked from London to Wolverhampton, and I saw him again. He was so pleasantly surprised that I showed up at Wolverhampton. He said, "Oh, I remember you from America. You're from, you're the young man from America." And he played Hey Sandy again, and then I obviously bought his records and eventually his CDs, and he still has a presence online. And I found on YouTube a video with the song Hey Sandy, and I'm going to play it. Now, the caveat is, and I'm going to ask, I see that a couple of people are commenting, I'm going to ask my commenters and anyone that's watching live if you'll let me know if you can actually hear the video, because I can't hear it when I play it, but I've been assured by the tech gurus of CRC that the viewers on Facebook Live will be able to hear it. It's one of those videos, it doesn't show him performing. I don't think I should have pulled up a picture of Harvey Andrews, but it shows instead the words of the song, and then there's some still photography about having to do with Kent State. So this is Hey Sandy. Of course, if you recall, one of the students that was killed is Sandra. So he wrote this song in her name, in Sandy's name, Sandra Sandy. So that's where that comes from. And without further ado, and stick around, even if you don't like the song all that much, you can kind of maybe go, I don't know, catch a commercial on TV or read a section of your book, and then come back, because as soon as we're done with the video, I promise we'll count the day, the 26th day of the Omer with the blessing. But for now, I'm going to give this a try. Let me know if you hear the music. If not, at least you'll get the words. But this is a song by Harvey Andrews. It's about Kent State. This is the 50th anniversary of the shootings and killings at Kent State. This is Hey Sandy by Harvey Andrews.
All the years of growing up are wasted now and gone. Did you see them turn? Did you feel the burn of the bullets as they flew? Hey Sandy, just what did you do? Hey Sandy, just what did you do? Well, the sun was hot and the air was heavy as the marching men came by, and you ran to the door to watch them pass, and you asked the soldiers why, and the sound of the steel and the black boots' heel was pounding in your head. And your freedom's past, they have come at last, with the blessings of the dead. Hey Sandy, why were you the one? All the years of growing up are wasted now and gone. Did you see them turn? Did you feel the burn of the bullets as they flew? Hey Sandy, just what did you do? Hey Sandy, just what did you do? In the college square, they were standing there with the flag and with the drum, and the whispered word as the young ones stirred was now at last they've come. And the air was still with the lonely thrill of now the hour is near. And the smell of sweat was better yet than the awful stench of fear. Hey Sandy, why were you the one? All the years of growing up are wasted now and gone. Did you see them turn? Did you feel the burn of the bullets as they flew? Hey Sandy, just what did you do? Hey Sandy, just what did you do? Through the air the shout as you all ran out was, why are these things done? And you stood and you stared, but no one cared for another campus bomb. And your songs were dead and the hymns instead were to the burning pyre. And the words of youth like love and truth, just ashes in the fire. Hey Sandy, why were you the one? All the years of growing up are wasted now and gone. Did you see them turn? Did you feel the burn of the bullets as they flew? Hey Sandy, just what did you do? Hey Sandy, just what did you do? Did you throw the stone at the men alone with their bayonets fixed for hire? Did you doubt that they would? Say no one could. Did you scream when they opened fire? As the square ran red and your blood stains spread and the darkness round you grew. Through the fear and the pain, did you call the name of the man you never knew? Hey Sandy, why were you the one? All the years of growing up are wasted now and gone. Did you see them turn? Did you feel the burn of the bullets as they flew?
back. So that was Hey Sandy for Kent State. And I guess before I move on to the County of the Omer, I want to just put this photo back up. That, of course, is the iconic picture of one of the students having been gunned down and another student, crying out for help. It was just one of those pictures of the 60s and 70s era that is, really, I think, prominent among those pictures that captured the era, pictures of good moments and joyful moments and of really difficult moments like this. And so just maybe a second or two of silence in memory of the four students. In memory of Allison Krauss and William Schroeder and Jeffrey Miller and Sandy, Sandra Shire. There we go. So thanks for being part of that with me. Thought it was important as we're counting the days of the Omer and making sure that we're being intentional about the moments that we're intentional about that one as well. And so to address a few things about the Omer in terms of what's coming, Paul mentioned Lag BaOmer. So Lag BaOmer is the 33rd day of the counting of the Omer, which of course is just a week or so away. This is the 26th. We are going to, CRC is going to observe Lag BaOmer on Tuesday as part of our university series. So the university series for May, which starts tomorrow night, is going to be, except for a week from Tuesday, it's going to be all about Pirkei Avot. Each of the rabbis will take a Tuesday to teach about Pirkei Avot, which is traditionally studied during the counting of the Omer. And but a week from Tuesday, just a few days after the actual Lag BaOmer, we're going to have a special video. Rabbis and friends of CRC and their campfire or fireplace fire. And we're going to share Lag BaOmer songs and teachings and stories from each of our homes, like we did a number of weeks ago for Shabbat and a number of weeks ago for Passover. So that'll be Tuesday, a week from Tuesday. That'll be Lag BaOmer. And then at the end of the 50-day period, still 25 days to go, 24 days to go. Shavuot, Paul, is when we do the study with Beis Abe. This is going to be a larger study. It's been planned with many of the Jewish communities are going to come together, since we have, we can't, it's going to be virtual and Zoom. We're assuming that even as far out as Shavuot, large gatherings still won't be the norm or even allowed. So it'll allow us to bring even more teachers and more communities into our Shavuos Tikkun, the all-night study. So anyway, keep your eyes and ears open for that. And let's count the Omer. And as Karen Flotty says, as we do, let's make sure that the memories of the four students killed at Kent State and all those who gave their lives fighting for our country, both in the military, but also those who died fighting for the values of our country through protests for peace and justice. Karen says, may their memories inspire us to more peaceful action and more actions for justice. And so we count. This is our ritual between Passover and Shavuot, between the celebrating the concept of freedom and acknowledging the concept of responsibility has to come with freedom. From celebrating the desert, that place of wide openness, but also the mountain of the desert of escape from slavery, and then the mountain, the place of culmination, the place where you can see, it feels like you can see everything where things come into perspective. From the season of spring, we count all the way to the season of summer. And so we count the days of this quarantine, the days of sort of the narrowing temporarily of our lives, the days where we have to witness a lot of illness and too much loss, hoping by the end of our counting we'll have a better handle on controlling this virus. And so this is the 26th day. I'm going to pull up the blessing. Went from pictures to videos to blessings. I'm kind of really getting the bells and whistles of this thing. So there's the blessing right there in Hebrew and transliteration. And we'll say the blessing, and then as you can see at the top right, it's the 26th day. And then I'll sign off, and hope everyone has a good and peaceful night, and that you stay well. And I send blessings to you and those you love, and as always, blessings for the whole world. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sefirat ha-Omer. Blessed is the Holy One whose presence fills creation, where we learn about mitzvahs, sacred deeds that fill our lives with meaning and purpose, including the mitzvah that we're engaged in right now of counting each day of the Omer period, 50 days, this being the 26th day of our counting. Laila Tov, everybody, good night. See you the next time, and God bless.